If you have a pension and $1 million saved, starting Social Security at 62 could be one of the biggest mistakes you make in retirement. And here's the strange part, it has nothing to do with the money itself, and everything to do with what happens to your spouse if you're not around anymore. Welcome back to Pension and Benefits Guide, the channel where we break down retirement planning, pensions, and Social Security strategy in a way that's simple, honest, and easy to apply to your own life. If you're getting close to retirement, or already there, this next part is going to matter more than you think. So let's talk about when you should actually start Social Security. Almost everyone obsesses over this decision, and honestly, it doesn't matter if you've saved $5 million or $500,000, people stress over this the same way. That makes sense. You paid into Social Security for 30 or 40 years, and you want to make sure you get it right. But here's the thing. There isn't one perfect age to start Social Security. And if you have a pension along with your savings, your decision should probably look very different from the average retiree's. Why? Because a pension gives you something most people don't have, a guaranteed source of income already coming in. That changes the whole equation, and it gives you more flexibility with your Social Security timing. Your Social Security decision should never be made on its own. It needs to be looked at alongside your income, your investments, your taxes, your health care, and your legacy planning. These pieces all affect each other. And Social Security is a perfect example of that. Let's start with the first big factor, and if you're married, this one is huge. Social Security should be a joint decision between you and your spouse. Nobody likes thinking about it, but you have to ask, what happens to my spouse if I pass away first? Here's where people often go wrong. They treat their pension election and their Social Security decision like two separate choices. They ask, which pension option gives me the biggest monthly check? And separately, when should I start Social Security? But those two decisions are deeply connected because together they determine how much guaranteed income your household has now, and more importantly, how much your surviving spouse will have later. Let's walk through an example. Say you retire at 62 with a pension paying $5,000 a month. To get the full amount, you choose the single life option, meaning there's no survivor benefit. You and your spouse both start Social Security at 62 as well, you're getting $2,000, and your spouse is getting $1,800. At the start, things look great. $5,000 from the pension, $3,800 from Social Security, that's $8,800 a month, over $105,000 a year. Your $1 million portfolio barely gets touched. But now imagine you're the pension holder, and you pass away. That $5,000 pension disappears completely because you chose zero survivor benefit. With Social Security, your spouse doesn't get to keep both checks, they only receive the higher of the two, which in this case is $2,000. So household income drops from $8,800 a month to just $2,000. That's a fall from over $105,000 a year down to $24,000. And suddenly, that same $1 million portfolio is under enormous pressure, with your spouse possibly needing to withdraw far more than the usual 4% just to get by. But the most important part is, there are ways to avoid this outcome entirely. One option, instead of starting Social Security for both spouses right away, you delay the larger benefit and let it keep growing. That way, you're intentionally building a bigger guaranteed income source for whichever spouse ends up living longer. Another option is adjusting the pension election itself. Instead of taking the full $5,000 with no survivor benefit, you could choose a 100% survivor option. Let's say that lowers your monthly pension to $4,300. Yes, that's $700 less every month while you're both alive, but if one spouse passes away, the survivor still receives the full $4,300. That completely changes the outcome for the person left behind. This is exactly why these decisions need to be modeled out properly. Don't just plan assuming you'll both live to 90. Run other scenarios too. What if one of you passes away 5 years into retirement? What happens to the pension? What happens to Social Security? And does your spouse still have enough income to live the retirement you both planned for? Now here's where the real impact becomes clear. The second major factor to think about is inflation. Does your pension include a cost of living adjustment? Because $5,000 a month sounds great today. But if that number never increases, you have to think about what it will actually be worth in 10, 20, or 30 years. Inflation doesn't stop just because you've retired. If your $5,000 pension has no cost of living adjustment, in 20 years, you're still getting that same $60,000 a year, but at just 3% inflation, that would only have the buying power of around $33,000 in today's money. The check stays the same. What it buys you doesn't. This is where Social Security becomes especially valuable, because unlike most pensions, it does receive cost of living increases. If you're financially able to delay it, you're setting yourself up for a larger, inflation-protected income later in life. Think of it this way: your pension can act as your steady foundation early in retirement, while Social Security grows quietly in the background, ready to take on a bigger role as the years go on. Before we get into the third factor, if this kind of planning breakdown is helpful, take a second to like the video, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a comment letting us know what part of retirement planning you'd like us to cover next. It really helps the channel, and I read every comment. Now, the third factor is your tax planning window. Let's go back to that same scenario: pension starts at 62, but Social Security doesn't start right away. That creates a gap in income. Most people see that as a downside. But if you have a large amount sitting in tax-deferred retirement accounts, that gap can actually become an opportunity. Say you need $30,000 from your IRA to cover expenses during that gap. After reviewing your tax bracket, you might find there's room to withdraw another $40,000 or $50,000 at a tax rate you're comfortable with, and use that extra amount for Roth conversions. This lets you bridge the income gap while Social Security keeps growing, gradually shrink your tax-deferred balance, move money into tax-free growth through a Roth IRA, and reduce future required minimum distributions. This is exactly the point: a simple income timing decision can quietly turn into a powerful tax strategy. That's why starting Social Security the moment you turn 62 just because you're eligible isn't necessarily the right move. Once it starts, you lose some of that flexibility for Roth conversions. And the goal is to avoid reaching your 70s only to realize you had this perfect planning window in your 60s and never used it. If you wait too long, you could end up with your pension, Social Security, and required minimum distributions all stacking up at once, whether you need the extra money or not. And that stacking can push you into a higher tax bracket and even increase your Medicare premiums. So when it comes to deciding on Social Security at 62, 65, or 67, the real question isn't just how much can I get today. It's what does this decision do to my plan 10 or 15 years from now? Of course, there are other factors that matter too, like your health and expected longevity. If there's reason to believe a longer retirement isn't likely, starting Social Security earlier could make more sense. Or if your spending needs are especially high early in retirement, that income might be essential right away. So, to recap, if you're retiring with a pension, your Social Security decision isn't just about picking an age. It's about how that choice fits into your survivor protection, your inflation planning, and your tax strategy, all at the same time. Now here's a question for you: if something happened to you tomorrow, do you know exactly how much income your spouse would have to live on? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear them. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where we'll break down another piece of the retirement puzzle that most people overlook until it's too late. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.